Welcome to Buckets from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer from the Action Network. I'm joined by Jay Money. You can find him on Twitter and on his YouTube channel. Jay Money is money. You can check him out at our YouTube page, youtube.com/the Action Network, and see that he's rocking a very sweet white action beanie. I very much like the look that Jay's got on tonight. He is looking extremely good. We're going to give you best bets for the Thursday slate in the association. I want to promo real quick for you. We've got an NBA bet stream for the Toronto Raptors taking on the Miami Heat. I'm going to be on there. It's going to be me and Chris Raybon, who most of you will know from the Action Network podcast and all of his great work. He's one of the best analysts in all of betting, just all of betting. Like whatever Chris bets, he wins at. He's incredible. He's going to be on there with me. Julian Edlow from DraftKings will be on with me. We're going to give you bets. We'll talk the game. We'll do live bets. We'll look around the NBA. We'll look at the other things. We'll talk futures, all sorts of good stuff. You can find the League Pass app. When you open up League Pass, just go to that game, click on the streams, and you'll see the bet stream. Just click on that, and you can check us out. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the NBA's most popular stream options, I've been told. And so you should definitely check that out and catch us on the NBA bet stream. Especially because I have no fucking idea what to do with Raptors Heat tomorrow, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll get best bets from Jay. As a reminder, everything we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. Download the app right now. Download it. Go get it right now. Because if you haven't yet, not only do you get to track your bets, I will warn you, a storm is coming. Brandon Anderson had one of his worst weeks that I have seen him have in the, 6-7 years I've known him now. And I will just tell you that he is going to come back with, no one will work harder. No one will study more. No one will dig deeper. Brandon Anderson's about to go on, what is the betting equivalent of a killing spree. And it's going to be in the Action Network app. So you're going to want to check that out as well. Let's start here, Jay. I real quickly want to touch on the Cup games from Wednesday night. So the Atlanta Hawks go into Madison Square Garden. This Hawks team continues to confound me. For those of you that are longtime listeners, if you're wondering, yes, Jim Turvey has given me unending shit about the Hawks pulling this off. There's a 125-1 Trey MVP ticket that Joe Delara got. I did not get that. Our Karl Anthony Towns ticket is dead as the Hawks knock him off. Jalen Johnson was so great tonight on both ends of the floor. And Johnson showed to me not just a high performance, but leadership. He scores this huge play in transition, throws down a dunk. Tibbs calls time. And coming back the other way, instead of preening for the camera, Johnson's pulling guys over to talk about defense. Be like, hey, when he's coming off of this, we've got to do this. It's the stuff that's been missing. Tonight was the most that they have looked like a Quinn Snyder team since Quinn took over. And between that, Great Barrier Thief locking up Jalen Brunson. Brandon Anderson is giddy with his Jalen Brunson hate tonight. Trae Young doing the Trae Young thing in Madison Square Garden. It was about as impressive as a win as you're going to get. The Hawks are very live, Jay. I said if they got past the Knicks, I was going to like them versus the Bucks. I am now very freaked out by what this is going to be. This Bucks. I have a Giannis 17-1 MVP ticket that I'm now terrified of because of how this Hawks team is playing.
Well, the Hawks have taken this NBA Cup very serious. And one thing I disagree, I think that all of the NBA Cup games, they've played like the Quinn Snyder type of team. I said this earlier, that he's starting to show his imprint on the team. They're playing like the Utah Jazz, #1 seed in the West, Quinn Snyder team. That's how they're playing. Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson. These two guys are absolute game changers, in my opinion. You add in Trae Young. I mean, they're healthy from the bench as well. Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter, Okongwu. This Hawks team is not a bad team whatsoever. Now, I don't think they win the NBA Cup. I think it's the Thunders to lose. That's just my opinion. I think SGA gets the MVP of the NBA Cup. I know all these other big numbers and all that are nice. I don't think anyone's messing with the Thunder. I think they're winning the Cup. That's just what I feel. No one's touching this team right now. But shout out to the Atlanta Hawks. They lose to the worst teams in the NBA, but they also beat the best teams in the NBA. And I'm noticing this team is playing really well right now. I mean, when you beat the Boston Celtics without Trae Young as 16-point underdogs, that opens eyes right there. I believe that game was in Boston as well, but regardless of where it was, the Hawks are playing really great basketball right now. They probably lost that game versus the Nuggets by 30 because they were looking ahead to this game. Huge game. We know that Trae Young loves to ball out in Madison Square Garden. Shout out to the Atlanta Hawks, man. I know that they had a down year last year, but everything is really coming together this year. It's all nice and dandy, but if they do get past the Bucks, they will lose to the Thunder, man. It's going to happen.
Hey, I love this Thunder team. I think they're awesome. I'm a little bit worried about a letdown spot after beating that Mavericks team. I think they got really up for that game.
I'm not worried, man.
Okay,
they're on a mission.
All right. I wouldn't be surprised. They're going to be the heavy favorites now, and I have a Shea ticket too, Jay, because I get ahead of these things.
That one's crazy.
3.5 is the look ahead line on. Not look ahead. It's the line for Bucks Hawks. It's already out of DraftKings. Bucks minus 3.5. They're gonna. I don't want to bet against the Hawks again ever. I just want to leave the team alone. I don't want to do it, and I don't want to bet on them, and I don't want to bet them, and I don't know what to do. I like the matchup. Like, I hate that the cup is putting me in these positions. I hate it, Jay. But 3.5 is the line on that one. We'll see. We're recording this as Rockets and Warriors is in the second half currently as we record this on Wednesday night. The Rockets are now down 1 to the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's do best bets for Thursday slate. Well, only 3 games in the association because that's just how the NBA is doing things this week. And so we've got Pistons-Celtics, Raptors, Heat, Kings, Pelicans. You always take sides, sometimes take totals, but you're catching me off guard here. You're taking a prop. What's your prop? What's your best bet for the Thursday slate?
Yeah, the sides hadn't been hitting as much, so I'm just pivoting a little bit. I'm going to go with RJ Barrett over 5.5 assists at plus 104.
Okay. I'm going to be on the Celtics Pistons over. I like it. We'll talk about Raptors Heat. I'm in a real jam on that one. We'll talk about that one in a minute. Give me the cap as RJ Barrett takes on the Miami Heat. RJ Barrett, a very serious most improved candidate player. If the Raptors were to make a run, if they made a trade and actually were to if they can get Scotty Barnes to stay on the floor for more than 6 weeks, Barnes has, I think, a legitimate shot at winning most improved player, even in a very tough field with J-Dub and Jalen Johnson. But give me your cap on why you like RJ Barrett on this prop here.
Yeah, and we can't forget they're still without Emmanuel Quickly as well. Watch out for the Raptors whenever they get him back. First off, this Raptors team they have a bunch of no-name players. This team plays hard, and that's one thing that OKC does. Like some of these teams, they're not necessarily the best or have the greatest players, but they play hard, and that's something that's lacking in today's NBA, especially on the defensive end as well. But let's get to RJ Barrett, man. Shout out to RJ Barrett. This guy has been absolutely balling with Scotty Barnes, without Scotty Barnes. We know he just had a huge game versus the New York Knicks where he talked about, hey, I really wanted to ball versus my old team. I've really seen some with RJ Barrett. He's really taking the leadership on this team for the Toronto Raptors. Really young team as well. Now their starting point guard is Davion Mitchell, but we know that he's not the best offensive guy. RJ Barrett will have the ball in his hands a ton in this game. He already has it in his hands a lot without even with Scotty Barnes in the game. But without Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett will be the main facilitator for this team. He will be running the point guard. He gets out on the fast break. He's making great decisions as well. There's not a ton of numbers that back this play up, I will say, but he did have a game without Scotty Barnes. He had 15 assists versus the Boston Celtics. I know that game went to overtime, but I'm expecting RJ Barrett to have a ton of usage in this game. I expect him to play north of 40 minutes as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble. He will be the engine that make the Raptors go in this game. I can't say, man, I was really close to taking the Raptors plus a 10.5. The Heat have obviously been playing really great basketball. They're coming off of a game versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, but Heat land double digits. I don't agree with it. I lean to the Raptors here, and if the Raptors are going to keep this game close, that means that RJ Barrett is really close to going for a 20-point triple-double. I think he's really live here. And like I say, the 5.5 assists at plus money, I think that this will move to being a favorite type of line, but I just feel like this is a spot where he really gets the guys going. the Heat aren't a bad defensive team, so they're gonna focus in on RJ Barrett. So that means he's gonna have to dish the ball out, get it to other guys. I really think this 5.5 line is a little too low. And as we see him continue to play games without Scotty Barnes, you'll see his assist line continue to steadily rise, in my opinion. So 5.5 is a little too low here. I would even take this line at 7.5. I think RJ Barrett is really live to go for a triple double this game. Like you said, Matt, really underrated most improved player, a candidate for most improved player this year. Watch RJ Barrett get rebounds, get assists, get points. He's going to be the do-it-all guy for the Toronto Raptors without Scotty Barnes. So I'm going to ride with him to go over his 5.5 assists. I'm not a huge prop guy, but I do know the game of basketball. I know how NBA is. I know these teams and players really well. And RJ Barrett will have the ball in his hand a lot. All we need is for his teammates to knock down some shots in this one. I've actually really liked what I've been seeing from the Toronto Raptors. Really underrated, kind of lower class Eastern Conference team. I think RJ Barrett gets us at least 7 assists in this particular game. Give me RJ Barrett over 5.5 assists at plus money.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to take that over to BetStream. I'm going to steal that from you and not give you credit for it. I like that. So tell me why you like Toronto here. And I want to walk through this a little bit, just in a little bit more detail, because I think it's a good example to get in the lab here. The line's 10.5. Miami hasn't been a double-digit favorite this season at home. They have not been a more than a, so not ever. They haven't been a double-digit favorite this season. I was shocked because what I use is I take estimated wins off of dunks and threes, which gives you an idea of like how many wins did you contribute with the stuff that you do in the box score, a factoring for opponent, like, and the time that you spend on the floor with starters. Okay, how many wins do you actually contribute to? Okay, and then I use that to convert that eventually into a spread value. And most of the really good players are between 3 and 6, and that seems about right? Like Jokic is going to be like 8 this season because he's not human. Joel Embiid, his MVP season was like 6 points, and that makes sense. You offset that with the guys that replace him. And so it's like if you have like a +2 on the bench, because most guys are going to be a net positive, they're NBA players, like a -6 and a +2, it's like, all right, 4-point move to the spread. That makes sense. The ranges are close enough for me to use as an approximate. I was shocked because when I looked at Barnes this season, he's only a +0.6. So it's about a half point. That's all I should downgrade them for being without Barnes, is a half a point plus whatever the backup contributions. And what's notable is, as you talked about, when Scotty, the biggest thing that happens when Scotty's not there is that RJ takes over more of the offense. Like, Scotty's a great defender and he's big, but RJ is the one that's taken over most of his offensive production, and he's been so good. And so it's kind of filled in for it. But based off of like the full season numbers, I make it 12.5. So I've got this where I've got like 2.5 points lean on Miami. But then I looked this up. This season, without Scotty Barnes in the lineup, the Toronto Raptors are 2-10 straight up and 8-4 against the spread. Jay, look, when we have a spot like this where it's like, all right, you don't have a clean angle, right? It's not great to take the spread. You are betting against a better Heat team that's been playing better of late. Like, they've been winning a lot. They're playing their best basketball. Got some distractions, which I'm sure you'll talk about. Toronto's not a good, like, I don't think Toronto's a good team. I think they're a bad team. They're feisty, but they're not.
Cover spreads.
But they do cover spreads.
That's all that matters.
And they've been really good against the spread this season. And they're in like once again, it's like a repeat letdown spot. I don't know how much of it is because like, Scotty was out earlier. Is this really? But I think the first game was when the guy's out does impact you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why you lean so much towards Toronto, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking here.
Well, first off, they already beat the Heat earlier this season, right? So they've shown that they can beat. They beat them. They beat them December 1st in Toronto. They beat them by 3 points. So there was a really close game. Obviously, they had Scotty Barnes. So one thing, you have distractions for the Heat, and people can say that it doesn't really matter. It matters. You're talking about possibly trading your best player. It matters because then you get all the other guys thinking, maybe maybe I get more opportunity, all this other things. So another thing, they're laying 10.5 points. So the Raptors, this is one thing for bettors to know, especially beginning bettors. Like, you can look at their record, their straight up record. That doesn't matter. We're bettors here. We're betting against the spread. There's plenty of room for the Raptors to lose this game, but still cover the spread. That's the key here. The Heat have been playing well, could possibly be a little bit overreaction from them beating the Cavs. They've had, 3 or 4 days off. They'll have another 3 days off before their next game as well. So you just kind of get this funky spot versus a team that record does not scare you. The Heat aren't facing the Celtics or the Bucks or anything like that. So you kind of get one of these little funky spots where teams kind of let down. They look at, see who they're playing. It's like, we don't really care about this game. Land 10.5, land double digits for the first time this season for the Heat. I can see them kind of letting up in this spot. And if they win the game by 5 points, they're perfectly fine with it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors shocked them. Like you said, when teams, the first game without their star player, everyone else steps up. Whereas the other team is going to look, they're without Scotty Barnes. It's going to be easy. When you come in with that mindset, that's when you mess around and get upset as a double-digit favorite. This Raptors team is the perfect type of team to cover double-digit spreads. A bunch of no-name guys. They play hard. They rebound. They move. They play really great sticky defense as well. I think there's money to be made with the Raptors in these specific type of spots where there's plenty of room for them to do exactly what they've been doing all season. Lose the game, but cover the spread, and that's all that matters for us bettors. But if you look at the matchups, they match up really well versus the Heat as well. Make sure Hero doesn't go bonkers here, and they have a real chance to keep this game within 5 points.
All right, I want to talk. We're talking a lot about a Heat Raptors game in the middle of December, but I think this is like a fascinating betting discussion. Here's what I think is interesting. All right, they do cover, but they don't win outright. And what's notable about that is they don't even win outright when they cover. So since 2014, and longtime people of the show will have remembered this because I'm very big on this talking point. In the regular season, when you cover as a dog, you win outright 64% of the time. It's why, like, we're always talking about, like, hey, you should probably play the money line if you like this dog. And I got to start doing it more. Every time I try, I get burned. Like last night, I disregarded my model was like, no, you should take the Thunder. They're way fucking better. Don't overcomplicate this. Just take the Thunder. And I was like, no, the matchup, because PJ Washington's gonna fuck this up. And then PJ Washington had the sniffles, and now, so that did not work. But I gotta find a better way to do this on the right spots. So this season, when you cover as a dog, it's 62% straight up. Okay. So from that perspective, what you're saying about, hey, I think they could win this game outright, I would agree with you, except the Raptors have covered 17 games this season. They're 17-8 against the spread. So if you're just betting them against the spread like you talked about, you're making money. But straight up in those games, they're only 7-10, 41% versus a 61% across the league. Now, I'm not saying that's not a reason to take Toronto plus 10.5.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm agreeing with you. Like, I think I'm like pretty sold on this. I don't know what I'm going to do because it's like every time I go against what my projections spit out, I get killed. Like every time. It's like, you idiots. But I think it's very interesting that they are 41% even when they cover. They don't win the game. So I'll ask you this question. I've learned this from Brandon Anderson, who Brandon's best thing, I think, is his ability to take various situations and find like, all right, let's get creative and find some value. Raptors plus 10.5, Heat to win is plus 166. We're middling it.
Okay.
It's a middle. It's Heat minus a half a point. Raptors basically plus 11.
I can see that. Or just kind of bet. There's a certain book out there that you can bet a team to win by 1 to 10. I'd be interested to see what those odds are, because if you shot, it could possibly be better than that. Possibly.
I like that. I like that as well.
Yeah.
And I get that this is like making it complex. And look, the NBA, it's like it's absolutely true that the variance is a problem here. Like it's a problem, right? Because it's like if it's a 9-point game and Tyler Hero hits another 3 because that's what he's doing now.
Crazy.
Yeah, then it's like then that's a huge problem for us. But I just think it's like a really interesting question of Toronto very likely covers the spread because it's so big, but I do not think that they win the game. I think Miami wins, but I can't do anything with a Miami minus 507 ticket. I can't do anything with that. I want to lay 507 on an NBA regular season game coming off a long break.
I just wanted to say one thing. I think it's a little different with teams that are not necessarily expected to make the playoffs, and you kind of mentioned that T word around. You know what I mean? So where they'll play hard, but when it comes to trying to win the game, that's a whole different story right there. So I know it's a little bit early in the season, but I mean, the Raptors aren't really expected to make the playoffs. So sometimes you find those perfect teams that are able to keep games close, but not cover the spread. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing for the Raptors. And I think it continues for the rest of the year, as long as you get either RJ Barrett or Scotty Barnes or Quickly in there. But all three of them, actually wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors were able to make the play-in tournament or like possibly even get that 8th seed.
All right. It's probably the dumbest idea possible, but I'll think on it. I mean, I might bet that same game parlay. Real quickly on mine, I do like the RJ Barrett prop though. That's a dynamite one. You should definitely tail that from Jay. Real quickly on mine, Pistons-Celtics. So I hit this on the last time that they played. I was on the bet stream on it, and I took the over in that game. Their last 2 matchups have gone over this season. This is the highest total it's been at. It's jumped up by 4 points. I still think it's too low. I have this projected still at 231.7. A lot of this is pretty simple. Boston's defense is not as good as the numbers show. They are a lot shakier, and they're especially shaky versus athletic teams that attack inside. When their defense looks good, it looks awesome, and they blow teams out and they demoralize them. They're going to get the threes up, and Detroit's going to let them. Detroit does not have the defense to be able to slow them down. They just do not have, they're not sharp enough to make the kind of rotations that they have to. So they're going to get the threes, and they're going to generate enough. But with Cade and Duran and Stewart and the guy and Ivy, they have the ability to keep attacking on the inside. And the Pistons hung in that last game really convincingly. I don't want to get involved on the spread in this game. I do lean Pistons. I have a very small lean towards Detroit to cover for the second game in a row. But I kind of wonder if Boston's going to remember that and be like, let's not let these kids hang around this time. The other thing here, I will say it's Detroit or nothing, because Boston continues to be very bad against the spread at home. Like, this is just, they're not a team that you want to back this season at home so far. If that changes, we'll talk about it. But their record at home has not been good enough to back, and it's impacting a lot of, I don't think it's reflected enough in the spread. They're still getting standard and a pretty healthy, I think, home court advantage relative to how they've actually performed there against the spread. So I lean Detroit, but I'm going to take the over in this game based off of the Pistons' ability to attack inside and the pace. And the Celtics know that they can get their shots up in this one, and they'll just outpace them with offense. I like this at any number that you're going to get over 228.5.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing, that also the Celtics know that they won't have to play great defense here, right? They can do it, just like you said, they can do it with their offense. We saw that in their last matchup. They got up by 20 points. Before you know it, it's an 8-point game, and the Pistons are able to keep it close. So the Pistons, another team that are built to cover these type of spreads, where they're not going to win the game, but they're going to be feisty enough to keep this within double digits, just like they did and I believe that last one was maybe back-to-back, or they were missing a player. It was something like that, and they were still able to sneak inside their spread. So they'll have everybody here. They're rested. They've lost 10 straight games versus Celtics. I do think that the Pistons are the right side here, and I think Tatum plays, so you'll probably get a better number. Maybe not on the over, but if you like the Pistons, you'll probably wait. If Tatum sits this game out after being off for 3 or 4 days, like, what are we doing here? But I think that the Pistons cover the spread and are able to keep this one within 10 or less.
Pistons are 58.3% against the spread this season.
They ball versus Boston, though, for whatever reason.
I'm sorry, 61.5% on the road against the spread. Boston at home this season is 30.8% against the spread. Like I said, it's Detroit or nothing if you're betting this game. I do not understand a bet on the Celtics in this spot. All right, it's going to do it. Jay likes RJ Barrett over 4.5 assists. I'm on the Pistons-Celtics over. Those are your best bets for the Thursday slate. You can catch Jay in the Action Network app. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. My thanks to David Payne, as always, as well as Brady Rubino and the video crew. Go to youtube.com youtube.com/the Action Network. Give us a like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. Tell us that you love the show. Hit me on Twitter and tell me that you listen. Every time somebody comes to me on Twitter and says, hey, I listen to Buckets, makes my day. I'm not kidding. I get a lot of shit on Twitter. Make my day by telling me that you listen to Buckets. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Till then, let's get buckets.